welcome to FFRF's Ask an Atheist. I'm Dan Barker. I'm co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And you could probably tell from those images that you just saw, today is a very unusual Ask an Atheist. We're going to be examining the tremendous physical changes one of our attorneys here at FFRF has made in the 6 years since he's been with us. And in a larger sense, what does it take for human beings to make these kinds of dramatic changes in their lives? So as always, we want you to know that you can ask questions on this topic. You can ask them in the comments of Facebook or send an email to this address, askanatheist@ffrf.org. So joining me today is FFRF staff attorney Chris Line. Glad to have you back on Ask an Atheist.
No, it's good to be back. As you kind of alluded to, tomorrow is a very special day for me because June 1st, 2017 was the day not only that I started as a staff attorney or as an attorney at the Freedom from Religion Foundation, but it's also the day I started my own personal weight loss journey, or at least the first successful one that I've had. And
Was that when you first started as an attorney or as an intern?
As an attorney.
So you'd been here before that?
Yep, I interned for a couple of years before that. But I thought it'd be a good idea with that coming up tomorrow to discuss my personal journey, but also more broadly what it takes to make progress towards your goals.
So were you always overweight, like your whole life?
Yep. My whole life, ever since I could remember as a child. In fact, a lot of my memories as a child are, food related. It's always been food, but, I was able to change that. My story was covered recently. It was in Men's Health. The Wisconsin State Journal covered. I was on the front page of the Wisconsin State Journal.
Yeah, we saw that.
We
got that paper. Big front page story about you. What did they call you, the Running Man?
Yeah, Running Man, which was a name that I've gotten from people around downtown. And there's even Wisconsin State Journal had a short clip they put together that we can show just to kind of give some context to start things off. Okay.
Oh, we go.
So we
there you
are,
running down by, is that by the Capitol? That is.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. As we were kind of, I was overweight my whole life. Growing up, I remember once a week we would do McDonald's every Friday. Soda. I drank tons of soda. Multiple cans, liters of soda a day. Any sort of sweets. That was sort of like my drug of choice, I guess, even as a child. Just a lot of soda, sweets, things like that.
So how much did you weigh ultimately? Do you know?
Yeah, the highest I ever got was probably about 440, 450. Hard to know because at that weight, the scales don't work. Usually they max out in 300s.
Well, maybe it bends the curvature of the gravity space of 40.
My whole life I was overweight. Never really had any, for most of it, sustained periods of weight loss. I always wanted to lose weight, but never, really had much success, except in college. For a little while in college, I discovered that I loved playing ultimate frisbee. I liked long walks while listening to audiobooks. So it was actually during that time that I first listened to The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins, God's Not Great by Hitchens. I did the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which sort of has atheistic themes. And, those books and stuff, I've been an atheist since high school, but in college, out walking and listening to these atheist books really solidified my beliefs and really made me understand the importance of atheism in my life. In high school, I was definitely an atheist. I didn't believe in God, but that wasn't a significant thing. It's not something I thought about. But after reading The God Delusion, I realized it was an important part of my personality and my worldview. So within the secular community, actually, I kind of felt like I kind of found a place where I belonged for the first time in my life. Growing up, I never really felt like I belonged. I was kind of a loner, read a lot of books and didn't really, I had gone to church a few times. None of that really made sense to me. I didn't really understand the world.
Was your family religious?
No, my family wasn't religious. My close friends were, and I would go to church sometimes with friends. In fact, a lot of my church experience revolved around food. The church I would go to with my friend, for a couple months I went voluntarily just by myself. And they'd have all these snacks afterwards, like a big smorgasbord of cheese and brownies and cookies. And so it was sort of this thing where I was going more for the food than
Well,
for
that's one
for
good reason to
religion.
go to church, I guess.
Yeah. So, in college, I became heavily involved in the Secular Student Alliance at
Well, I saw you
Whitewater.
there, didn't I?
Yes, I met you. Yep, you came and spoke. That was when we first met.
Were you at a high point or a middle point of your weight then?
I mean, like I said, I never had a ton of, well, actually, I was probably losing a little weight at that time. I even considered interning at FFRF at that time, but I did end up taking something a little bit closer to home.
Because you guys invited me to give a talk about FFRF there. Is that how you first heard about us?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd heard a little bit about it, but I didn't know too much. But yeah, meeting you, it helped a lot. Yeah, but anyway, when I got involved in the secular movement and kind of found walking and listening to audiobooks and stuff, I actually lost more than 80 pounds at that time. I went from about 350, so I was around 350 at the start of college, got down to about 270 or so. But unfortunately, that didn't last because, college ended and my time with the secular community ended as well. I went back home, I moved in with my parents, lost sort of all that secular community and sort of the atheist movement that I'd found. So I got back up over 400 pounds, living back at home with my parents. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was working on cars with my friend and didn't have, a lot of hope for the future. I just didn't know what was going to go on. So I actually ended up rolling the dice.
You needed to have faith. Right?
I know. So I ended up I was like, well, what can I lose by going to law school? I'm clearly not doing anything with my undergrad degree. I should go to law school, see if I can do something better, which actually wasn't that passionate about being a lawyer. My real interest actually was in atheism, as I had said, and secularism, logic, reason, and sort of creating a world based on reason and not on religion or on, any sort of irrational views.
But how many jobs are there for a professional atheist?
Pretty much none. I mean, even like I said, I was into like Dawkins, who's a biologist. Christopher Hitchens was a writer. I was just like, there's no real way to be a professional atheist. But at my first summer at law school, I actually interned at FFRF. And that kind of changed everything.
And then
for
you
me.
met some real professional atheists.
Exactly.
The first
Yeah.
time.
No, I mean, within my first few weeks at FFRF, I knew that this was the place for me. Spent that summer working with our incredible group of attorneys, working both to protect the separation of church and state and generally advancing the idea of a more secular society. I mean, really everything that I'd wanted, basically I saw that I could have that role that I wanted here at FFRF. Like atheism could be my job, which is rare for people, So I interned more than a year at FFRF. My law school advisors actually were concerned. They were like, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. If you're only interning at FFRF, how are you going to find a job, with that limited range of experience? Yeah. But, I had faith, so to speak.
Well, one of the main reasons we decided to keep you on after being an intern was that you are amazingly productive. You put out a lot of work. You wrote a lot of letters. You put in the time and the energy, and that was very impressive. And we noticed that when we talk about our lawsuit or our victories, legal letters, your name comes up a lot as having written all those letters. And you must enjoy that, right? Writing letters to...
Absolutely love it. I mean, everything about being here. So as I said, I applied to be a full-time legal fellow after the internship. I was nervous, but I mean, I was like, well, I've been interning here for 2 years. If I haven't got the experience to be an attorney here, I don't know who would. I was up for that fellowship, and like I said, on June 1st, 2017, started working full-time as an attorney. That same day, with the new job, the job I've been dreaming about, I knew it was time to make a change, a real change in my health. So I finally was able to start making some adjustments. I got rid of fast food, stopped doing that. And then as time went on, I was able to eat less and less. I went from drinking soda to lower calorie drinks, my simpler breakfast of protein, things like you can see on the chart. That's the day I started at FFRF, and it was just a straight shot. I mean, the weight just melted off because, like I said, I felt like I really belonged. Like I found my purpose in life and where I really could do things, and having that emotional stability and everything from working at FFRF allowed me to finally, use what I'd learned, because I'd spent years before that learning about what's important in health, how to eat health. I mean, in fact, most people know. It's not like there's no real question of like, oh no, I don't know what's healthy. Should I be eating cake for breakfast or, you know, egg? Like we know, but it's more complicated than that. You know, I've always said weight loss is very, very simple, but it's not easy. You know, it's simple but not easy.
Do you think you had an eating disorder?
Well, I definitely did and still do.
So you have to maintain.
Yep, I definitely have binge eating disorder. So even now, there's always a part in the back of my brain that would love to just go get a big pizza and just eat the whole pizza.
Is that similar to like alcoholics and
yeah, I view my food issues as alcohol in the same
like
way
an
as an
addiction
alcoholic. Yep, as an addiction, and that I need to manage. You know, it's a little bit more complicated, obviously, than alcoholism, because for an alcoholic, you might be able to just say no more alcohol. You know, that's a pretty easy cut. Whereas it's harder. Now, what you can do is you can say cut the junk food. You know, but you obviously can't cut food entirely. And it is nice to have a treat sometimes. But I've worked. That's a big part of what I've done is structured my life in ways to make sure that I don't overdo it.
So are we helping here at FFRF? We have a lot of treats and donuts and stuff for the staff all the time. Is that hard?
Oh, it's very hard, but it's gotten a lot better because we have started moving towards, there's usually healthy options included as well. You know, but it's great. I mean, you know, obviously we have great members who decide give us a pizza party, you know, and Annie Laurie is a tremendous baker making delicious pies.
She brought 2 pies in last week. Yeah.
Yep. Unfortunately, so I waited on the pies, and there wasn't enough left, so I didn't have any, and that sort of thing works out for me. But those are the type of things I've learned. You know, like for example, peanut butter. If I have like a jar of peanut butter, I will not stop eating it. You know, so I buy packets of peanut butter now, just so I can have the one. You know, put it on some toast. You know, because different people have different things. I mean, there are people who their issues are not overeating, or like binge eating, but that they just eat a little too much, and there's different ways to manage it. Like some people could handle having snacks, and I know a lot of people handle having, you know, snacks in their desk and stuff. I couldn't do it. If I had snacks or something in my desk, I would just eat them all. So, and it's just about learning about what you need to do. You know what I mean? That's a big part of it, is figuring out what works best for you. And that's true not just of like weight loss or health or anything like that, but any goal you're trying to do, you need to figure out who you are and how you can approach your goals. You know, so within that year, first year at FFRF as an attorney, I went from 430 pounds to about 250. Then that legal fellowship ended, and luckily FFRF kept me on board as a full-time attorney, and I was able to continue both my important work at FFRF and losing weight. Got down to about 170, 190. I've been between 170 and 190 pretty much ever since. I kind of, you know, I'll go back up more in the Christmas time when everybody sends in their, you know, the Williamson send us the Kringles, and you know, there's
you
lots
mean
of
the winter
treats.
solstice parties?
Yes, the winter solstice time, and we get lots of treats, and it's a little colder outside, so I don't get as much activity. But
So
yeah,
look at
so
that.
yeah, you can see, yeah, that's the difference. You know, this is about where I'm at now, and like I said, it's.
It looks like you're standing in front of those those mirrors that warp around. You know, one makes you big, one makes you small.
Yep, and
But
that was
that's
pretty.
excellent.
So that was when I graduated. So that was real close to the highest I was, because that was right when I graduated. And then as soon as I finished, I started at FFRF.
So I wanted to ask you. You said way back that you got involved with frisbee. Like, can you run at that weight?
So I was a little bit lower in college when I was doing frisbee. Yeah, that was during that time where I had lost some weight from it, but I could run. I mean, ironically now that I'm much healthier, I haven't been playing much frisbee. There just hasn't been the time, but I'd love to get back into it. It's one of my favorite sports.
When you first started your running, it must have been slow going at first, right?
Oh yeah. So for most of my weight loss, I walked a lot. So I would walk for like 8 hours on a weekend and just put on audiobooks, podcasts, things like that. After I had reached that for under 250, that was when some of my coworkers here at FFRF actually signed me up for a half marathon. I was not a runner at that time. They didn't know how exactly to, or what. I mean, taking me out to dinner seemed kind of potentially counterintuitive, you know. So yeah, they signed me up for the half marathon. So I started practicing running to see if I could do it. And then I ran all the way up to when I did the half marathon, and then I just kept going, and it just became a major part of my life after that. It's a huge, even now I run, you know, you saw they call me Running Man.
Well, I've seen you. When I walk home, I go through the university every day, and I've seen you hoofing by, but you're always kind of looking down like you're listening to a podcast, right?
I
You're not
listen to
really paying
podcasts.
attention to.
Yep. Not only do I listen to podcasts, but I'm actually able to use my phone while I run.
Yeah.
So I'm, reading important stuff. So I get work done, like while
Wow.
I'm on my phone, and I will, it's like I said, an important part of my life now that I do, multiple times a day. That's just like built in. And I think that's what's been important to help me do it, is just building that in. I don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, do I feel like going for a run today? I just know every morning I'm either I'm going to lift some weights and then I'm going to do a run. After work, if I'm not immediately going to my girlfriend's house, I'll get a run in.
So you're replacing one bad habit with another habit, and that new habit is like.
Yep, the habit. And so in the same way that most people would probably go home after work, sit down, make some dinner, and then sit and watch some TV. That podcasts are my TV. So I've got certain shows I follow. Got to catch the new episode, every day, and so.
So you could do it on the couch, or you can do it running down.
Yeah. So it's like I'm getting a similar entertainment value, except now I'm doing this thing that helps do it, and that's important for me because, as I said, I do have binge eating disorder, and so. Basically there's two ways you could lose weight. You need to either reduce your calories or up your exercise, Now I just can't, I'm not the type of person who could eat a lot less food, especially because of the binge eating disorder and some issues related to just being obese my whole life and stomach stretching out and things like that. So what I do is I eat a lot of healthy food and then I run to kind of make up the difference to kind of.
Does your stomach shrink too when you lose weight, or do you?
It kind of a little bit, but mine clearly, I just know it hasn't, because when I do binge, I can eat obscene amounts of food that other people wouldn't be able to do.
Well, it doesn't look like much room is left.
Well, yeah, it's rough when it does happen, but I think that's part of the issue. So I do a lot of lean food just to fill up. But that's sort of besides just weight loss or something. That's what you need to do to accomplish any goal, is figure out how it works for you, because you can't do something temporary. What a lot of people do is diet, thinking, oh, I'll eat this food I don't like, and then I'll lose weight, and then I can go back to eating what I want. And that's just not going to work. You need to create a true change and decide, like, anything you do, you should be willing to do forever. And that's sort of the way I've done things. So I haven't given up some foods that I love, sweets and things like that, because I can't do that forever. So that's important. The sustainability is important.
Well, one of my jokes is that I think the principle of moderation is a great idea, as long as you don't take it to extremes. So once in a while, for me, I'm not talking for you, but once in a while, you can splurge once in a while, right?
Yep.
And then you can balance your life, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I splurged this weekend. I had a wedding in Milwaukee, and there was a lot of splurging. But yeah, balance actually is really hard. That's what I found the hardest. I mean, now that I've lost the weight, it's actually, I think, harder than losing the weight. Because when you're losing weight, it's very simple. It's, you want to minimize the amount you're eating while doing as much exercise as you can. That's how you create the thing. But once you hit your goal weight, now you don't have to worry so much about that. And it's hard to know. Balance is just very hard. It's very easy to say, I'm not going to eat pizza, or I'm not going to eat donuts, or something like that. But how do you determine when you can have donuts sometime or pizza sometime? That's where it gets hard. It's like, what does that mean? Can you have pizza once a week, twice a week? You have to kind of figure out that balance for you. And that's kind of the hard thing, is knowing, hitting that right thing. But
maybe because when you're losing, you have the reward. Oh, I dropped,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. But then when you're maintaining, you don't have that reward anymore.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. You do lose that psychological reward of seeing it happen. And now, that's where I'm at now, is I'm really trying to work on building muscle. I don't have a lot of fat left, that I can lose. So it's really, I'm trying to shift gears to building some muscle, just setting new goals, once you hit your old goals and things like that. But yeah, just wanted to come on and talk about my story, but also, branches out to a larger conversation about goals in general. It's nice to talk about my progress in this arena, but I think, I want to talk about how you can accomplish more things, make progress, whether it's a personal goal, whether it's like what we do here at FFRF, protecting the separation of church and state. I feel like it's very similar. As I lost the weight, it's like, you go, and then sometimes you have a setback. Something happens, you overeat. At one point I had to have shoulder surgery, which really set me back, and you have to overcome that and keep moving forward. It's the same way working to protect civil rights. You work hard every day, and you hope to keep moving forward. Then suddenly a Supreme Court opinion comes down and throws everything out of whack, and you have to make a choice. Do you give up? because things have gotten harder, or do you keep pushing through? And if you really want to get where you're going, you need to keep pushing through. I kind of relate it to like a journey. If you, let's say you wanted to drive from here to California. Well, if you got out on the first day, started driving and got a flat tire, would you just give up? Not if you really want to get there. You do what you need to do to fix the problem and then keep moving forward. Or if you took a wrong turn and went and lost some time, you're not going to give up and go home. You need to just get back on track. And that's kind of how I view it. You just want to make sure you get back on track towards your goal, whatever that is, if you could drift it
or
off.
else make it impossible. Like, I'm not a huge exerciser, but my main exercising is walking. I walk home from work almost every day. It's almost 3 miles, and up and over Bascom Hill, so it's a pretty moderate exercise.
Yeah.
Well, once you start walking home, you got to get home. I mean, I can't I'm stuck. I'm walking home, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, and I would do that a lot when I first started with walking. What I would do is I'd walk about how far I wanted to go so that I had to come back. So when I'm out there walking, it's like you walk and you're feeling pretty tired by the time you hit that the end, but now you got to come back and you don't have a choice, You
can call an Uber.
Walk back. Well, you could, but there's a quote kind of related to this that it's been attributed to Thomas Jefferson, but I don't think there's actually any evidence that he wrote or said it, but it's been, you can see it all over, but it's eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. And I love that because I think that's actually true about everything, like eternal vigilance, whatever you want, So in order to maintain my health, I'm going to have to be vigilant for the rest of my life, I never, even when I hit my goal weight, I'm not done, because if I stop thinking about it, don't care anymore, I'll regain the weight, Same thing with civil rights. I say when, not if. When we fix the Supreme Court and get things going and have a court that actually upholds our civil rights like they're supposed to, people are going to be immediately trying to turn that around and bring us back to where we are now. You never get to give up the fight. I know Andrew, when he was here, would always joke, that we're trying to put ourselves out of the job.
Andrew Seidel.
Andrew Seidel. That we're trying to put ourselves out of the job, but I realize that's just not ever going to be the case, because even if we succeed, there's always going to be more to do. There's going to be a new goal, but not necessarily just a new goal, but you have to hold on to what you've accomplished, So that's true whether you're talking about civil rights, whether you're talking about health goals, that was a big realization for me that helped, is knowing I need to come up with a way to do it that I can do forever, because it is a forever thing. It's eternal vigilance. It's not, I don't get to go, whoosh, I finally did it, I accomplished the goal and I'm done. You need to keep working towards those things you want.
Okay, but
forever.
you have a pretty good strength of character and determination and goal setting. What about people who don't? Or what would happen to you if you were laid up or inactive for a few months for some reason?
I don't know. I'm worried about that. I'm so active. I think at this point, hopefully, I would know and be able to make the adjustments necessary. Like, obviously, I'd have to cut my food intake down a lot. But, that's the other reason why I do, sort of the weightlifting and keep up with my exercise, because the thing is, it builds on itself, So yeah, for someone else, running 20 miles a day would be really rough. If you just suddenly wanted to start running 20 miles a day, that would be very, very tough. But I didn't start out running 20 miles a day. It built up over time, and now my body can easily handle it. It's nothing for me to do that. I have
used to it. Yeah.
Some days I get up to 30 miles of running a day, just because it's just, I'm used to it, And that's how you have to do with anything, build up, whether that be mentally, emotionally, education, is a very similar way. You can't just study one day and learn about a topic. You need to put in the time over time. You are an amazing pianist, probably the best I've ever heard in person, but you didn't just, A, you weren't just born playing the piano as far as I know, and then B, you didn't just sit down for 10,000 hours in a row and just crank it out. You played a little bit over time, and years go by, and the next thing you know, you've developed this talent.
Well, okay, but that's a good point. But in my case, it didn't feel like work. For some of us who have a talent or something, it's fun. It wasn't like somebody was making me go sit down. It was it was something I can't not do.
Exactly, that's exactly my point, and that's what it takes in terms of making it a lifestyle, making it real. That's how I am now.
Yeah.
So I eat really healthy food, but only the foods I love. I'm not eating celery. Celery would be healthier than some of the foods I eat, but I don't like it, so I don't eat it, you know? So it's about figuring out what works for you. People say, how can you run 20 miles a day and listen to podcasts? That's insane. Well, I enjoy it. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. And that's how you're able to succeed. Because you're never going to succeed in a goal if every day is terrible, you know? Whether it be weight loss or fighting for civil rights or doing something, if every day is a drag, if you don't want to go to work or you don't want to do your workout or do whatever you've got planned, it's just not sustainable. You're never going to reach your goal. So you need to figure out a way, like you said, to make it something you enjoy. And maybe if you really hate something that much, it's just not meant to be a thing. You know, like that happened for me kind of in a way. I, for years, have been trying to play the guitar, bought 3 or 4 of them. And because I just don't like sitting, you know, as I've known, I'm a very active person. I just haven't been able to put in that time. And I realized, you know, I'm not going to. You know, I keep kind of convincing myself, oh, maybe someday. Well, I'm not. So I've finally given up on that to really open the door to, doing my fitness goals, you know, photography, and things that I will put time into because I enjoy them. You know, so it's important to exactly figure out how you enjoy it so that your journey is enjoyable, because, you know, you are going to, as I said, you're going to have to do it forever, you know, regardless of what your goal is. And
well, I'll give you a full free year of guitar lessons, no strings attached.
That's good. But yeah, I mean, that's how it is, even just the civil rights work, you know, it's hard.
But is it fun? Working here is fun?
Yep, exactly. That's what I was going to say. I absolutely love every second being here, you know, so it is hard, but I love it. And it's the same way, like you were saying, in fact, I was an intern for multiple years working for free. So clearly, you know, being paid to do it's even better. And that is just a thing I love, you know, and I've always thought about this. If I ever won the lottery or something, I would still work here at FFRF.
Well, you know, because you're helping real people. When you're a constitutional attorney, you're not just doing bankruptcies and drunk drivings and divorces and that kind of stuff. You're actually in constitutional law. You're helping that student in the classroom who is being oppressed or whose rights are being denied. And the letters that you send out and the lawsuits that our team takes make a real difference in a positive way in people's lives. And that's pretty rewarding, I think.
For sure. It's like I said, it gets tough at times, but yeah, that's what keeps me going, is knowing that, you know, people are counting. I mean, everyone's worried about the way things are going, with the courts and things like that. But it's tougher on us at times because we're the ones who really have to do it. You know, I have all these people here at FFRF counting on me to, you know, be on the front lines fighting. And that is scary at times and hard, but also great knowing that so many people are supporting us and that we're making a difference in people's lives.
So before we go to questions, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Back when I was an associate pastor at a church, there was a guy in the church like you. He was huge, you know. I mean, the car would like this. And he lost weight, but he gave the credit to God. He said, if it wasn't for God, I could not have done this. What do you say to people who say that?
I mean, my experience was the opposite. No, it wasn't God, but I think a lot of what kept me feeling unhappy and overweight for so long is that I mistakenly believed that I didn't have control over it, you know? And I think that was the big revelation for me, was recognizing that the world and things that go on are not forced upon you, you know, that you have some say in what you're going to do in your life. And I was a part of figuring out how to find my dream job here, you know, and like figure out I need to go to law school to do that. Oh, I need to work hard as an intern. Oh, I need to work hard as a legal fellow, and what I need to do to make that dream a reality. And then same thing, rather than just saying, well, I'm addicted to fast food, which I am, and just going, that's just how it is, you know, and accepting that and just spending my life, you know, eating fast food, which is companies create the food to make it as addictive as possible. So I could just give into that and say, well, that's what I am. You know, I'm 450 pounds and I love fast food and it's an important part of my life. And I could have just accepted that, gotten even higher, you know, who knows how long that would have sustained itself. But I was able to know, actually, I have a say in this. You know, I can determine what my future is going to be, and I can figure out using not religion, but logic, you know, and that's been a big part of it, is learning what does it take to lose weight, how can I incorporate into that in my life? How do I best incorporate it in a way that works for me? And being able to use, rather than religion, science and logic, reasoning to solve this problem and to achieve my goals and to kind of have the life that I want.
And what you're saying sounds very much like these secular recovery projects from alcohol addiction and that. They use the same basic secular principles of control to, well, I heard one of our members say, I don't want something controlling me, like alcohol controlling me. I want to control it. So how do you make that switch to where you decide I'm going to be the one in the control and not, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how I did it, but I know that it, it just happened over time. I mean, one big thing is just gathering information. The more you understand, the easier it is. But then, yeah, you need to just figure out a way to make that happen.
So you want to go to questions here?
Yeah, let's see.
Slide to unlock. Ask an Atheist 5:30. That's today. Okay, Jessica L. has a question. What do you recommend for people who find working out boring? How did you change your mindset to enjoy physical activity?
So it's tough for me because I always kind of enjoyed it. I've never minded going for a walk, and walking is one of the best exercises you can do. You don't actually need to run if you don't want to. But as I said, I started with audiobooks. I did a lot of very popular ones like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, things like that. And audiobooks are great to listen to. And then eventually I switched to podcasts, which especially now, there's just so many. When I started, there were less. But now, any topic you can think of, anything you're interested in, there's a podcast out there.
Like We Dissent? You listen to We Dissent?
I listen to We Dissent. There's a lot of great atheist podcasts. We Dissent, I listen to Free Thought Radio. Hemet Meadows, the Friendly Atheist podcast. Yeah. Thank God I'm Atheist is two ex-Mormons out of Utah that put on an amazing show. And things like that. I mean, those are atheist topics, but I also listen to current events. I do a lot of political podcasts and things like that. You just... Whatever interests you, I think is a good way to do it. But it's important to emphasize that if you don't like a certain exercise or something, don't do it. Only do what brings you joy in life, because you don't want to spend your life, grinding out on something you don't want to do. Like, that's not going to be a way to actually achieve your goals. You gotta figure out what you love and use that to reach your goals.
So I see two more questions on here. Maybe I need to refresh here. Stacy R. Did you ever get distracted from your goals by current events, like the pandemic or the outrageous Christian nationalist movement?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to be disciplined, as disciplined as you can. But even in that case, yeah, I fall off track all the time. But I'm able to know that I'm always going to get back on track. So, I mean, I never more than a couple days, or something. I mean, there was, like I said, I had shoulder surgery that kind of threw me off for a month. That was kind of rough. But other than that, I'll have weekends, or like if I'm particularly stressed at work, maybe I don't, do things as well as I could, but I always know that I'm going to get back on track afterwards. And that's what's most important. I mean, motivation dwindles. You feel motivated one day and then maybe the next day you're not as motivated. So it's really about discipline, as I said, and making sure you put in place a plan and figure out how you can create a lifestyle to make sure that even if things get rough, you're able to, keep going. And when you get off track, like I said, you get back on track as soon as possible.
So I think I lost it on here. I went to some wrong page here for questions. Maybe Greg knows how I can get back on here. My drive.
There should be a link.
I saw there were two more questions in there. Action alerts. Okay, I'll look for it here. Wait. Yeah, here's a question. It seems like you found a lot of support during this time from the secular community. That was one of the questions that was asked. How does that help?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, especially, less so for my personal journey, but more, definitely for work. I love when we do the convention.
Yeah.
Every year a convention is so important because it really recharges the batteries. A lot of the work we're doing here, we talk to some people, but it's really kind of me in an office, writing letters, trying to resolve problems. But when we go to the convention, we get to see everybody and really feel that sense of community and really recharge the battery.
Yeah.
So I always look forward to that every year. But yeah, having any community that supports you and just being able to live, I think living your true life, doing what you want. I mean, my parents both worked jobs that they didn't really enjoy because they needed to. And I did that starting off growing up. I was a telemarketer. I've worked on cars doing oil change. I worked in the Swiss Colony Monroe, like on a line, doing like bakery. And especially after now working at FFRF, I could never go back. I could never imagine doing a job just for the money ever again. Like I'm always going to want to do something that fulfills my life. And I think I encourage everyone to do that, to figure out what makes your life worthwhile and try to make that your job, because then, you're never really having to work. You're always just enjoying life.
So basically, in order to accomplish a difficult task, you don't need God or religion, do you? You can do that just with your own thinking.
No, like I said, God and religion can actually slow you down. It can make you think, oh, I can't have any better because this is what God has ordained for me. He controls everything. So if I don't enjoy my life, I could have said, well, I'm 450 pounds. That must be how God made me, and just lived with it and not actually tried to make a change in my life. And I'm glad now that I've made that change to really, make the most out of this life that I've got.
I remember when I was involved in Christian music, people would come up to me at the piano and say, wow, you have this God-given gift to play like that. And I'm thinking, God didn't practice the piano for 4 hours a day when he was a teenager, and God's not the one who sweated and learned all. It was my brain who did it. But the religious mentality is, oops, like Tim Tebow, you had to give credit to, whatever you accomplish, you got to give credit to something bigger than you. When actually you're saying we have it within ourselves.
Yep, and that's the thing I like to emphasize. Like I think people I've talked to have sort of treated it as though I'm some exceptional person, but I really don't think I am. I think every person has it in them to live a healthier life or to accomplish whatever their goals are, to live the life that they want and the life they deserve. And I think people just need to work towards that.
Well, you do have an exceptional drive, I guess, or motivation to get your work done, and that's something. And not everyone has that.
Yeah, I mean, I do, but I haven't always had that. I mean? Like you can work on things. You can sort of change parts of your personality as well.
Yeah. So I guess that's the question. Oliver F. asked that question. Your perseverance is definitely an inspiration, he says. So do you take that word inspiration as a secular word?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've had now... it's definitely been over 50 people have stopped me out on the street, and they'll say, I've had people tell me that they think about me every time they go out for a run.
Wow.
Or that I'm an inspiration to them, because there have been various people who've either seen my actual weight loss transformation, or they're just people who see me running every day and think that's inspiring, just keeping at it. And that's just how I've always been, and that's how I think you need to approach life. Find things that you enjoy that make progress, that help you make progress, and then just hit them wholeheartedly. So, I run every day because I need to do that for my health. I come in here every day, and even though the Supreme Court keeps coming down with these terrible decisions and is working very hard to destroy the separation of church and state, we here work just as hard to uphold it, and we have to do that, to keep it going.
We're waiting for some decisions right now, aren't we?
Yep, and so those are going to be some rough days, but that just makes it all the more important that we keep fighting and work harder and grind to protect the separation of church and state and do what's right. That's the other thing, is when you're working hard for what's right, you don't have any other option. There is no quitting when what you're trying to do is the right outcome. That's important.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thanks, Chris. That was very inspiring, if I can borrow a word.
So that concludes Ask an Atheist for this week. Don't miss Free Thought Radio. This week, Annie, Lori, and Dan feature young atheist author Elle Harris. You can find out how to hear Free Thought Radio at ffrf.org/radio. And be sure to catch the latest episode of We Dissent podcast, where Allison Gill, Rebecca Markert, and Liz Cavell talk to Professor Carolyn Corbin from the University of Miami. Listen and subscribe to We Dissent anywhere you get your favorite podcasts, or check them out online at we-dissent.org. If you want more information about the Freedom from Religion Foundation, check out our website at ffrf.org. If you're a member already, thank you. If not, please join, and we'll see you next week on FFRF's Ask an Atheist.